What's going on, Fourth Inches Podcast listeners? How you guys doing? This is Stevie P. What's going on, Kev?
What's going on, Stevie P? What's going on with the listeners out there? This is our weekly waiver wire buy low, sell high show. So let's get into it.
Yes, sir.
You want to start it off, Steve, or you want to just...
Actually, we're going to mix it in everything together to get the podcast, continuing to move. So, we'll do waivers and everything all together. So, we'll start it with quarterback real quick. And really, me and Kev were kind of talking about it. And really, the only quarterback I really want to talk about today would be Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's on a bye week, coming off a bad game. He's somebody that I recommend buying low on because of his matchups coming up, and just he's a second half quarterback. He just always seems to play a lot better. After week 6 or 7, he just starts to blow up. So, he's definitely somebody I'm looking to buy low on. His matchups coming forward, he's got the bye week this week, which is probably why you'll be able to buy him. But he's got the Giants, Houston, Washington, Arizona, Atlanta, San Francisco, Philadelphia. And then in the first week of the playoffs, he has a tough matchup against Jacksonville. But after that, he's got the Rams and Dallas Cowboys. So, somebody I'm looking to buy on.
That's probably a good buy low. If I got to go to quarterback, the only one I have on my list would be Derek Carr. Coming off the injuries, supposed to play this week according to what, certain things are saying. Yeah. He's expected to play. So, Russell Wilson is definitely a second half, killer. He picks it up in the second half and always tears it up. I definitely agree with that. If you can buy low on Russell, he's definitely somebody you want to go get. And Derek Carr, like I said, he's coming back from the injury this week, according to what people are saying now. So I like Derek Carr going forward after this. They've already had a couple of their tough matchups in the past.
Yeah, I agree. So now we'll switch over to running back. The first guy I kind of wanted to talk about, Kev, because I'm interested to find out what you have to say about it, is how do you feel about Tariq Cohen? Me personally... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so me personally, I'm feeling almost close to dropping. I think I want to wait and see one more week what they do with, when they're playing Baltimore this week at Baltimore. I want to see if maybe they get him more involved. But if he's not involved after this week, I think I might just be dropping.
It's crazy because we go through our list, and I didn't actually talk about you being on my drop list or him being on my drop list, but that is exactly what I had, the same exact thing. I'm watching him one more week. Yeah. I have Cohen down here to watch one more week, and if he's not involved next week or if he doesn't produce, Tyreek Cohen probably is somebody I would drop.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to quarterback real fast, just because I forgot that. One more person I would also drop at this point, Big Ben. If you're holding on to him at this point, don't. It was ugly. He threw 5 interceptions. He doesn't seem interested. He seems like he should have retired, and they kind of talked him out of it. He doesn't seem like he even wants to play the game anymore from the way he was talking afterwards. So, Big Ben, going back to quarterbacks, Big Ben for me is a drop.
Yeah. I think I'm doing the same thing with Big Ben. That I'm doing with Tariq Cohen. I think I'm going to wait one more week and see what happens, only because I kind of feel like this was kind of a gut punch game to either there's two types of men in the world, or people in the world, period. They're the people that get punched in the face and lay there and act dead, and then there are the people that get up and really fight hard to show that they're not done. So, I think I'm going to wait one more week on Big Ben and see how he looks next week. And if, I agree with Kev, if he doesn't look good next week, I'm done.
Yeah, my only thing was that he hasn't done anything all year, to be honest. He hasn't been, he's been very average all year. That's the only reason why. If he looked like a great, if he had a few good or, solid outings, this year and then put up this stinker, I would agree. But he just hasn't. He's been very average this year, and he's actually disappointed me a lot because I've always been high on Big Ben, and this week I had him at 3, and it was just ugly. Man.
I had him at 6. I hear you, bro.
I was one of the worst calls I think I ever probably could have made. So, yeah, I think at this point, me personally, I'm dropping Big Ben.
I hear that.
Getting into some more running backs, we're not going to go through a lot of these. I'm just going to throw some names out there that we've talked about already. We probably talked about last week or even for a couple weeks. That you should that should definitely be on teams at this point. Wendell Smallwood, he's at 48% owned. He should definitely be on a team right now. You saw how the Eagles used the running backs, and Kenyon Barner was highly involved in the game plan, and I think he just kind of filled in for Smallwood's role. So I think Smallwood definitely has to be on a team.
Yep.
Wayne Gallman from New York. I think he had 11 or 12 carries for like 57 yards. He got a couple catches out of the backfield. For some reason, they still want to use Orleans Darkwa a little bit more. Darkwa got the touchdown. This is what I was saying last week. I don't think Ben McAdoo to me is just a bad coach, and bad coaches make bad decisions. Like, this guy actually looks like a good player.
Yeah.
He just, to me, needs a little heavier workload. Thomas Rawls and Alex Collins are the other guys on that list that we kind of talked about. Thomas Rawls maybe not talked about as much, but Eddie Lacy was freaking horrible. Thomas Rawls has – one thing I wrote down in my notes here is you've got to pick up Rawls because I think he's the guy. Yeah. However, don't be surprised if Seattle picks up another running back soon because I think they just want to use Rawls kind of for the stretch run.
Yeah.
And, I think they were hoping that Lacy could kind of fill in, and he just does not look good at all. Lacy looks cooked.
I hear that. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, like Kev said, that's some of the guys we went over. We're not going to really go over the guys we went over last week. Wayne Gallman, we said, and he looked really good this weekend. And those guys, Kamara, we talked about, Ellington, we talked about. Ellington, I do want to get into. Me and Kev were talking about. We want to get into Ellington. We got
to talk a little about Ellington.
Yeah, the one thing everybody should have heard, if they haven't heard already, Adrian Peterson is now a Arizona Cardinal. So,
yes,
AP's outlook to me is on the up and up. I think he's going to see a lot of touches. Especially. Me and Kev kind of differ on this, so I'll give my point of view. I'll let Kev give his point of view. So, I think they're going to run AP into the ground, and within the next couple of weeks when he learns the offense, hoping that he can, kind of carry a load until David Johnson gets back. If they can win some games, like let's say, David Johnson, they're saying maybe like middle to end of November. So we're talking 6 or 7 weeks from now, maybe like 6 weeks. If that happens, and AP can, help them to some wins, I would say maybe 3-4 wins, because it doesn't really seem to me anybody's running away with that division. Seattle could definitely, with the schedule they have coming up, run away with it, but you never know. And I think if they can get some wins and have a hope at maybe a wild card spot, you could see David Johnson back. So I see them just running AP into the ground.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't know if this was kind of a surrender to season type of thing for Johnson. Maybe not. Maybe they're, maybe they just wanted to pick up AP and try to, like you said, just try to keep it going. Because Chris Johnson looked terrible. Mm-hmm. He's definitely done. He has to retire. So,
yeah.
One thing we'll talk about, I guess as things progress during the season is what we hear about David Johnson, if he plans on coming back, or if they plan on bringing him back, and just kind of watch AP. But AP is a definite add on your waiver wire, and Andre Ellington's still under 50%. Me and Steve were talking. Andre Ellington has not really been their they're rushing down back.
Yeah.
He's kind of just been getting a lot of PPR targets. He's been got a lot of receptions out of the backfield, and I don't think his role changes. We don't think his role changes too much. I think AP is going to probably get the early down workload, and on passing downs, Ellington will probably see the majority of those. Exactly. So I think both guys still could be added. I think both guys should be added and be on your team, be on fantasy teams in all leagues.
Yeah, I agree. I like what they both bring together. They kind of bring what David Johnson brought last year, except AP is not David Johnson's running ability. At this point in his career, but he's better than Chris Johnson. He, just watching him this year, he runs hard still. He fights off defenders. I think his tough-nosed style of running really goes well with what Arizona needs right now. They need that, and
yes.
I think that'll definitely help them. So
I'm definitely interested to see it. I'm definitely. I want to see AP revert back to the old AP. This New Orleans Saints stuff has to go. This shouldn't. I hope this isn't. Hoping when AP's done that this is just a blip on his career. It doesn't even. We ain't even talking about it too much.
I hear that. All right. So the next guy I wanted to talk about is actually a buy guy. He's not a buy low, obviously, but is Ezekiel Elliott. For me, if I can do a 2-for-1 for Zeke, I'm doing it. And I'll tell you why. Zeke is coming off a game where he had 29 carries, 116 yards. Really, that's not a great yard per average, carry average. If you watch the game, Green Bay really made it a point to try to stop him and take him away, but they just kept giving him the ball. He didn't look great. So if you can get Zeke, I definitely am telling people to buy because his matchup coming up. I really, really like. He's got San Francisco after the bye. He's got bye week this week. Then he's got San Francisco, Washington, Kansas City, Atlanta, Philadelphia, the Chargers, Washington, New York Giants, Oakland Raiders, and then the Seahawks in week 16 of the playoffs. And if everybody, pays attention to Zeke the past 2 years, he kills Seattle.
Yeah.
He kills Seattle. So I'm not worried about that matchup, in the playoffs.
He did kill him last year.
Yeah, he hurts them. So for me, I'm trying to get Zeke onto my teams if I can do that. How do you feel about that, Kevin?
I'm definitely. I mean, it might be one of those cases where you got to sell too high, get two guys, sell high. I got two guys. Then if you can get maybe, Lamar Miller and Devin Funchess, Will Fuller. That's probably still not even going to be enough to do it.
Yeah, honestly,
probably may have to go higher than that.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you have like Shady McCoy, a
Shady
big name.
McCoy is probably another one that's good.
If you can do a Shady and I don't know, maybe Demaryius Thomas and see how that goes. Mm-hmm. Something like that, and see if the Zeke owner is selling, because you know what, you definitely want to look at their what's it called, their record. If they're a losing team with Zeke on there, they might see, okay, you're giving me two superstars for one, I need the points, and they might be freaking out, so they might be willing to sell. So for me, those are the owners that I'm looking for. If they have Zeke, I'm trying to buy. I'm definitely on that.
I agree, definitely agree. If you can go get Zeke, go get Zeke.
I agree with that.
Next guy I'll talk about is Jerick McKinnon. If anybody, I'm sure most of us watched the Monday night game. Mm-hmm. Jerick McKinnon looked like a stud almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes,
he literally was making all types of plays out there. Let me look for his final stat line on it. But
I think it was 91 and a touchdown, and then 6 for
he had
51?
He had 95 and a touchdown, and receiving he had 6 for 51.
Yeah.
He obviously is going to be a heavy person involved in his game plan. They're going to have to play with Case Keenum. Sam Bradford just looked pathetic. He definitely still looks not unhealthy. So it looks like Case Keenum's going to be their guy, and if that's the case, they're going to have to use the running backs. And Latavius Murray just isn't very good.
Yeah.
Murray I think only had 2.5 or 3 yards per carry average. I think You think he had like 12 carries for 30-something yards. So, I think that Jerick McKinnon is definitely a pickup because they used the running back heavy. You saw how Dalvin Cook was being used, and McKinnon should. I'm not going to say he's going to take over that role completely, but it looks like he's going to have a large influence in their run game and their pass game.
Yeah, I agree. Me and Kev actually made a trade in our league. And one of the players that was in that trade was Jerick McKinnon, and I told Kev, I said, I really don't want to trade him because I feel like he's going to be the number one guy. And it looked to me like I was correct 100% on that watching the game last night.
Yeah. You definitely were. Definitely were. That was 100% good call.
Yeah.
We both kind of talked about it. I think I liked Murray a little more than Steve did, but watching him last night, Murray just not very good. So
yeah, he's just you know what it is. To me he's an upright plotter. He's not dynamic in any way. He doesn't make guys miss. He kind of just runs hard. And, if he gets an opening, he's kind of fast, you know what I mean? So he can, if he gets to the secondary, he can take off. But the problem is getting to the secondary is not easy for him. So if he's not doing those type of things, we saw what Jared Cook was. And he was just, he was a very prolific runner, and that's not what Delvin Cook, I'm sorry, I call him Jared.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, Delvin Cook. We saw what Delvin Cook was, and Delvin Cook was just you could just see it in his play that he is going to be something in the NFL. And when you watch the same thing with Latavius Murray, you just don't see it.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so the next guy I want to talk about is actually, for me, a sell, is Carlos Hyde. Watching the game this weekend, he went up against Indy, you know what I mean? So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. The problem was I saw a lot of Matt Breida, and Breida looked good. He
was definitely on the field a lot.
Yes, and he looked good, man. He was hitting holes. He was putting little moves on guys, and I liked what I saw. So, if I can sell with Carlos Hyde's name, a lot of people are going to, if that pay attention, are going to, see what Carlos Hyde looked like last weekend, and probably not take him in a trade. But if you can get a number 2 wide receiver and maybe a low end running back, I think I'm selling on Carlos Hyde. How do you feel, Kev?
I actually have Carlos Hyde as a buy low.
Okay.
I don't understand these type of things, and I'm not saying Breida didn't look good, because he definitely had a good game, but Carlos Hyde has produced pretty well all year. He's put up good numbers all year. He had 5 yards per carry his first game. His second game was the game against Seattle where he had like 8 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. His third game, he had 3.5 yards a carry, but had 2 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah.
And then last week he had 4 yards per carry. Yeah. It's not like the guy has been terrible. No. I just don't understand why you just come into a game like this and just say, all right, well, we're going to switch everything up. Who knows? Carlos Hyde could have went out there and did the same exact thing that Matt Breida did. Mm-hmm. Carlos Hyde's still a guy I would want on my team. I'd be willing to buy low on him, especially if the owner's a little shaky with what he saw in the last game.
Yeah.
Because, frankly, I think Carlos Hyde is a good football player. And I want good football players on my fantasy team, especially when, they're on a team that uses the run game. The 49ers tend to use the run game as much as they can because they don't really have a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
So with Carlos Hyde being that guy, I just feel like he's a good football player. And he's somebody I definitely would buy low on, especially considering, you probably don't have to give that much up for him right now if the owner watched, what happened the other day.
Yeah, it was bad. For me, I think, I agree with you saying. I completely agree. Carlos Hyde is a very good football player. The problem for me is the offensive line for 49 is not very good. Coupled with his matchups coming up just scare me. He's got Washington this week coming up in Washington. We all saw how Washington has been playing rush defense. They've been really good. Dallas, that's a definitely game he could go off. But then you got Philadelphia, Arizona, the New York Giants. Then he's at the bye. Then he's got Seattle, Chicago, Houston, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. So for me, after the bye, this guy has the toughest matchups of any running back. Seattle, we saw what Seattle did to Todd Gurley this weekend. Chicago.
Yeah, but at the same time, he killed Seattle in Seattle last time he played. So that's not a matchup I'm necessarily scared of.
Yeah,
Carlos Hyde is the highest yards per carry average against Seattle ever.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I definitely hear you. Just a player that scares me with the matchups. So, if like we say, we have difference of opinions, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah. So I guess you got our feelings on Carlos Hyde. As far as Matt Breida, do you think he is a pickup, Steve? As far as somebody you might,
Yes, I do. I have him as a pickup. He's not somebody that you can start right now until you see what happens this week, but I like to be in front of trends, so if it is a 50-50 timeshare, I want to be ahead of that rather than behind it, because I do think Carlos Hyde will probably get the goal line work. He's a bigger, stronger back, but the way Breida was running this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the field a whole lot more and contributing to somebody's fantasy team.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch going forward, honestly, or should be interesting to watch, I should say, because with those two, because, like I said, Carlos Hyde had a pretty good start to the season. It wasn't like he was out there playing terrible. He did look like he started off a little shaky in this game, and Breida just came in and gave him a spark. But I just think that Carlos Hyde's a better football player. So, but at the same time, I definitely think that if you want to get ahead of the gun and try to, pick up somebody on your roster that could turn around and wind up being a productive player, Matt Breida showed he can be that this week. And, definitely I agree. So Breida needs to be owned. Definitely, like you said, try to get ahead of the game and ahead of the ball in these things, because if you wait too long, he can turn around next week and be the number one waiver claim, after Carlos Hyde bangs his foot up, or
exactly.
Carlos Hyde has another bad game, and it looks like in this game he had 10 for 49. Carlos Hyde was 8 for 11.
Exactly.
So he definitely had a better game than Carlos. But for me, I think that Carlos is just a better football player. But both, especially if you own Carlos Hyde, you need Matt Breida on your team.
Yes. Yep. I agree.
Definitely. So, one guy I want to talk about real quick, Steve, is Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack looked really good to me. He looked really elusive. It could have been a 49ers defense that just isn't very good. He was, getting around the edge very well. He had 9 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown in the game. This is still Frank Gore's job, but talking about getting ahead of trends, this is one that I think I want to get ahead of, because Frank Gore just, I don't know how much Frank Gore has left in the tank. And if Indy comes back and Andrew Luck starts firing and this team goes through a playoff race, they may start incorporating Marlon Mack if he shows the playmaking ability that he showed in the game the other day.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree. I really don't have too much to add on to that one. I agree. I think Marlon Mack is especially if you have, like we said about,
Breida.
Breida. It's the same thing. If you have Frank Gore, you need to pick up Marlon Mack.
Definitely. You need to pick up Mack if you have Gore.
Yeah, definitely. So the next guy I wanted to talk about, we actually told you guys to pick him up last week, Aaron Jones. So we said if Jamal Williams is the guy, you pick him up. If Aaron Jones is the guy, you pick him up. And we found out before the game that Aaron Jones was going to be the number 1 running back, and he looked great. So,
it's funny, Steve. I see things like this, and I just wonder, Ty Montgomery is a good player.
Yes.
But this dude looks like a real running back back there. Like, he looked really, freaking good.
Yes.
Man. Rushed for over 100 yards.
Yep. Had a touchdown.
He
caught the ball.
One thing I really liked about him, Steve, he kind of had a little Kareem Hunt where it's he's really short and thick, and he's able to stay low to the ground. He has a low center of gravity when he runs. And, that just gives him so much power. He looks like he has real strong legs, too. Aaron Jones looked like he actually looked better than Montgomery, and I think when you look at that, I don't even know how he wasn't at least the backup to Montgomery. Why were they even playing games with Jamal Williams or, at all? Because Jamal Williams looks like he's not very good.
Yeah.
Definitely. If Aaron Jones needs to be owned in every league because, when Montgomery comes back, I'm sure Montgomery will assume the role, but Aaron Jones definitely should start cutting into that workload because he looked extremely good.
Yeah, I agree. The thing I do want to say, if you have Ty Montgomery, I wouldn't be freaking out. I know some people are freaking out about Aaron Jones. Honestly, I still think Ty Montgomery's the number one back. If it's a 70-30 split, it's kind of like, what people see when they see DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. DeMarco Murray is the guy. We saw that this weekend. I want to say Murray had what was it like? It was something crazy. It was 39 snaps to 9 snaps against Henry. It was crazy. It was a lot. It was a lot to a little bit. And I kind of feel that this is going to be the same way. Yes, I do think Aaron Jones is going to get some carries, but I don't think he's going to hurt. We got to look at it with the way Ty Montgomery was being used before he got hurt. He was literally in there. He had the most running back usage of any running back in football. So now that they see they have a competent number 2 guy, I definitely can see it being a 70-30 split. So I definitely see that happening. Ty Montgomery is a good player, and he's a good player, and it's not going to really affect him. What's going on, Kev? We dropped Kev off. He just got back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see Ty Montgomery losing the role. So don't
I totally
freak out.
agree. That's what I was saying. I think Montgomery's the number one guy. I just think it could be more of a 70-30, 65-35 around there.
Exactly.
Where Aaron Jones cuts into his workload a little more. But that still makes Ty Montgomery a very valuable fantasy player, especially in Green Bay's offense. And it definitely makes Aaron Jones somebody you want to watch and hang on to pick up because he definitely looked like a real running back for the NFL.
I agree with that. Okay.
One guy, another running back I'll talk about as a buy low is Amir Abdullah.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Steve have been talking about Amir Abdullah for a couple weeks now. Before this game, I specifically said I don't like this matchup. You had Kuechly and Davis. You had the Carolina front seven. That's a very tough front seven. I think they're number 6 in the NFL against the run. I heard today.
Yep.
This was a bad matchup, but Amir Abdullah is going to get the workload. He's more of their early downs, and he actually is even seeing a lot of third down work. Amir Abdullah is definitely a buy low, especially after this game because he's already been producing throughout the year, and I'm sure his owner notices it. But if this is a guy that like I said, he's their number one running back. It's a good offense. Detroit's got a good offense. I like having good players on good offenses. And if he's going to see 15 touches a game in that offense, he's somebody I want on my team. And after this game, his owner may be ready to dish him off if you can get if you're going to give him a high end third wide receiver.
I completely agree. I definitely am pretty still high on Amir Abdullah. So if you can get him, get him.
Steve actually in our league just traded Demaryius Thomas straight up for Amir Abdullah, pretty much. I mean, there was some other pieces, but
it was nothing.
That should tell you a lot because Steve's been very high on Demaryius Thomas, and if he's making that trade, you know that Steve is high on Amir Abdullah as well.
Yeah, his usage is just super high, and I like it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So, is there any other running backs you want to talk about, Kev, or you want to switch over?
I have one more sell. I have a sell high at running back, Lamar Miller. He didn't have the greatest game, but he had a solid game. He was over 4 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. He had a couple catches out of the backfield. Deontay Foreman looks like a very good running back. I think he's going to start getting more workload and continue to get it. If you can get if you can dish off Lamar Miller right now after having a couple good weeks back to back, I would do it. I don't know what you think you can get. Maybe you get a wide receiver 2, but definitely somebody I would sell high on right now because I don't know how long this is going to continue. Miller's not necessarily an injury candidate because he tends to stay healthy, but Deontay Foreman is just lurking, man, and he looks like a solid player. He did fumble this week, but he came back, man, and I specifically remember, I think it was Chris Collinsworth, I guess, did the Sunday night game, and his first run after that fumble, he just ran through people, man. It looked like he ran angry, and I think that's Bill O'Brien, they've been talking about, likes this guy, and that's probably what it is that he likes, that, he runs angry. And, I just see Deontay Foreman cutting into Lamar Miller's workload, and if you can sell high on him, I would.
I agree. I like that. So we're going to switch over to wide receivers now. The first guy I want to talk about, he is actually 63% owned, so he's not really somebody we're going to tell you to add. If you can add him. But it's Sterling Shepard for me. We all saw what happened to OBJ, and it's unfortunate and it sucks.
Basically, the whole Giants wide receiving, Giants wide receiving.
Exactly. So, with OBJ going down, Brandon Marshall also went down with into IR now. So he's the number one guy. He's the de facto number one, and for me, I like number ones on teams. And if Sterling Shepard's going to be that, I want him on my team.
Totally agree. I don't. He also injured his ankle. Mm-hmm. I don't know any prognosis. I haven't heard any prognosis on that, but his definitely doesn't sound as serious. And like you said, he's going to be their number one option now. So I think Sterling Shepard definitely has to be added, even though like you said, he's at 64%. So people kind of have the idea of Sterling Shepard being a very good football player.
Yeah.
Definitely add Sterling Shepard if he's available in your league.
Yeah, definitely.
Real quick before we continue, I just figured I'd throw some names out there, like I did kind of with running backs, guys that we talked about already. Jerron Brown, Cooper Kupp, Jermaine Kearse. Yeah. We kind of went over these guys. These are kind of depth guys. I told you I wasn't big on Jerron Brown because the Arizona wide receivers seem to they change like their underwear. The guy who's actually performing this week, John Brown, has the touchdown.
Yep.
If it's not Larry Fitzgerald, I can't see myself starting any one of those receivers. And so, I'm not big on picking them up, but he's a guy that's on the waiver wire list, and he's only 25% owned. Cooper Kupp definitely was involved heavily in the passing game in this one.
Mm-hmm.
He saw a lot of targets, but he dropped the game winner.
Yes, he did.
But Cooper Kupp definitely has to be owned. I mean, me and Steve have been so up and down on this guy because it was like, he's good, he's not good, he's good again, and I definitely think that Cooper Kupp needs to be added. I don't know how much he'll start him, but he's definitely somebody that you can have because he may actually, as the season goes on, start to develop even more of a rapport with Jared Goff and start to see more targets because Sammy Watkins just seems like he's invisible.
Yeah, I agree.
Jermaine Kearse, Jermaine Kearse is the number one receiver. That's all I'll say about that. So if you want to go to the number one receiver, Jermaine Kearse has done pretty well this year. He's had some up and down games. So if you want to take a flyer, Jermaine Kearse is not a bad flyer as the number one receiver for the Jets.
Yeah, I treat Jets players like jet fuel. Stay the hell away from it. I mean, just stay away. Really, I swear, the only guy that I even will remotely even ever talk about is ASJ, and that's because I believe he's a really good tight end. He just hasn't had Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
No, I was saying you're not big on Bilal Powell as well.
No, because
this week he definitely came back. They didn't even use him this week.
Yeah. He got hurt in the game and never came back. And then McGuire, they're saying they're trying to tell you to pick up McGuire. I've seen ESPN saying McGuire is a must add this week. For me, I can see it because they're playing New England, But,
yeah,
I'm not going to tell you to go out and, spend a whole lot of fab dollar on Maguire, especially if he's just going to be playing New England this week. If you need it, go ahead. But, I don't think he's that great of a football player. He had that one big run and didn't really do anything else. So, like I said, the Jets I kind of stay away from, especially their wide receivers, like to the utmost. I just don't want anything to do with their wide receivers.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the only one of those three that I just brought up. I probably add is Cooper Kupp. I'm not adding Curse. Curse, like I said, he's kind of hit or miss, and he's a Jets wide receiver. He's just a number one, and he's under 50% owned, so I threw him out there. Another guy I want to bring up, considering that he should be coming back soon, is Mike Williams, the rookie from the Chargers. Me and Steve have been talking about it. Tyrell Williams, when seems like he may, kind of give up that job when it comes back, or Travis Benjamin may give up his spot, or they might just be flip flopping. But I think Mike Williams, you don't take a guy, in the early first round to turn around and just keep him on the bench, especially if he comes in. They're not really. They're 1-4 now, so they also probably want to see what this guy has.
Yep.
So they may use him fairly, a fair amount of times.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Williams is definitely somebody I would take a flyer on. I've actually picked him up in 3 leagues and have had him on my IR slot. Mike Williams is a guy I would add as a flyer. Phillip Rivers likes to throw the ball around, and Mike Williams, he's a guy that can go up and get it. So I can see them taking a few shots downfield, and I'm interested to see what Mike Williams can do.
I agree. I definitely love Mike Williams coming out of college. Very good player, and just has the pedigree. He was a top 10 pick, like me and Kev were saying, and just has the pedigree to be a really good football player, and to a team that really needs good football players. So,
yes.
We will see how that works out. But me and Kev are telling you to get him as soon as you can.
Yes.
All right, so the last last wide receiver that I really have that I want to talk about is actually, who was it? Hold on one second. I'm sorry, guys. I was looking at somebody. I just took it off my screen. Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs got hurt in this game, and he had one catch, I believe, for 6 yards. So for me,
4 yards.
4 yards. So so if you have Stephon Diggs, keep him. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine.
I agree.
I
have Stephon Diggs. He was part of that trade with the Jerick McKinnon trade that me and Steve talked about between us earlier.
Yep.
I love Stephon Diggs, and he's not going anywhere from my team.
Exactly. So, and for me, he's a buy low. He had a bad week. The week before, he didn't score a touchdown. He did have 5 catches for 98 yards. So, for me, if I can get him on my team, I'm trying as hard as I can to do that. Hopefully, the person who has him is freaking out and, is like, oh, I don't know what to do. And, gives you him for peanuts, especially because it looks like Sam Bradford hurt his knee again or re-injured it.
I don't even think he did. He just looked like he's not even healthy. He looks terrible. He looked terrible. He was falling down like
before he even got touched.
He was barely even getting touched, and he was falling down. It was. He shouldn't even have been out there.
No, that was really terrible. Yeah, that real quick before we get into any more fantasy, I just want to say this. If you're an NFL coach and you put your player out there and you see him that he's looking like that, why did you keep him out there that long?
No.
To me, he's a terrible coach. There's no reason to have him out there looking the way he was looking. He was looking scared. You could tell his knee was hurting him. Like me and Kev said, as soon as the pass rush came in, he didn't even let them touch him. He just went right to the ground and basically balled up like a little girl. So obviously he was just in a lot of pain and should not have been out there. Mike Zimmer should be, fired if you ask me. That's just ridiculous.
I don't know about fired. I think Zimmer's a good coach, but I understand exactly what you're saying. Like, you put a guy, you're almost putting that guy in that position. You're hurting the team. Case Keenum ain't a great quarterback, but he definitely came in and he won the game for Bradford. They were going to lose that game if they kept Bradford in there.
Yeah,
so
they were.
it definitely made it a little more interesting. But Case Keenum, Stephon Diggs has had good games with Case Keenum in there. So going back to our Stephon Diggs talk, don't get rid of him. Case Keenum was still chucking the ball around to him. And, I think him, Thielen, all them guys will be okay.
Exactly. All right, so is there any other wide receivers you want to talk about, Kevin?
I actually have quite a few.
Okay.
One guy I definitely want to talk about is a buy low, is Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, yeah.
The last couple weeks, his numbers have been pretty pedestrian. Let me pull his numbers up for the last 2 weeks here.
Yeah, I have it right here. It was past 2 weeks. He was 5 for 67 and a touchdown, and 5 for 49, no touchdown.
Yeah, very, very pedestrian when it comes to the yardage. I think Mike Evans is a stud. Jameis has just been a little off the last few weeks. I think he's going to get it back together. If after watching this game and somebody may be nervous about the way Jameis was throwing because he was very inaccurate, and also Mike Evans going out and providing like 5. What'd you say was 5 for 60?
Yeah, 5 for
something.
67 a touch, and then 5 for 49.
Yeah, 5 for 49 in this game. If there's an owner out there that's a little worried about Mike Evans, that's a guy I would try to buy low on because Mike Evans is a stud. I absolutely love the guy. Another guy you have as a buy low is Amari Cooper. Everybody else is talking about, and then me and Steve both talked about this before the show, before we got on the podcast, and we both kind of agreed. Steve, you could kind of get into it too.
Yeah.
But everybody's talking about dropping Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was a top 20 receiver last year. That didn't disappear this year. His quarterback. Before the bye week, or before Derek Carr got hurt, he had a couple tough matchups, and if you recall, their wide receivers kind of flip-flop back and forth anyway. Crabtree would have a game, and then Cooper would have a game. Crabtree, Cooper, it would just kind of be that way. And, they played the first game, he had a good game. He was heavily involved. They actually targeted him, 5 times, I think, in the red zone. The second game, it was Crabtree's game. I don't know if the third week. Well, I think the third week was third. I don't know which week it was with. What was the week with Denver? Was it week 4 or was it week 3? I think it was week 4 last week. Right?
It was week 4. Yep, week 4.
Yeah. So, who did they play before that, Steve? Do you have it up?
Yep, they played Washington.
Yeah, and Washington plays very good defense on the outside, and they still had Josh Norman, and that was just a terrible game all around.
Yep.
That was just a terrible game all the way around for the Raiders because Washington came in and smashed them.
Yep.
And then they turn around the next week and face Denver. So, and then this week he had E.J. Manuel at quarterback. Yep. I think that Cooper is going to rebound, and I would definitely be buying low on Cooper. I think that Cooper and Crabtree had a good week this week, so I kept, but both of them guys will turn it around. Derek Carr is coming back supposedly this week, and if that's the case, I think Amari Cooper is going to be fine. They actually got a great matchup against the Chargers too this week, so it's actually the perfect time to buy low on them.
Yeah, I agree. Watching that game film, there was a play I believe in the third quarter where they threw a pass, a pass in the end zone. EJ threw it to Michael Crabtree, just threw it over his head. But if you watch the other side of the field, Amari Cooper was running a slant, was wide open.
Slant over the middle, wide open. I saw
wide
the
open.
thing.
Yeah, it was wide open over the middle for a touchdown. EJ just made the wrong read and went with the tougher pass. So it's not that Cooper is bad. It's that right now his quarterback was bad this week, for one. And for two, he has had drops issues this year. But, the kid is just way too talented to write off.
He'll turn that around.
Yeah, he'll turn that around. So, not somebody I'm worried about.
I'm totally opposite of everybody saying drop Amari Cooper. If you drop Amari Cooper, you're going to eat it. You're going to turn around and eat that in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you're not lying. See, and like we said before, the way I look at waiver wires, I look at the guys that are on the waiver wire, and if I see a name that I think in my head, I want that player, then guess what? Those are the guys that, I try to get on my team. So if they're on somebody's team and they haven't been playing that well, if I saw Amari Cooper on the waiver wire, I would jump all over him. So,
100%.
So that's kind of the way I figure it. So for me, I'm basically, I don't really have too many other wide receivers that I was really, the waiver wire for wide receivers
another
hit
guy,
and miss.
I actually got quite a few. Well, we actually, we talked about one of them, but I'll just throw them out there. We could talk about another buy low is Golden Tate. Yep. Golden Tate's had a couple rough weeks. The last two, he didn't, he's not really going to get into the end zone, but in PPR scoring, Golden Tate's going to be fine. He's starting to turn it around. I wasn't big on him last week. Steve was a little higher, but I just didn't like with Kuechly and them being in the middle of the field and Golden Tate kind of working the middle of the field. But I think Golden Tate will turn it around. They play the Saints this week too, so like I said, it's kind of similar with Cooper. If you could buy low on Golden Tate this week, it would be a perfect time because they got a great matchup. Then I got a few sell highs.
Well, real quick with Golden Tate, I believe.
Okay, sorry,
no, you're fine. With Golden Tate, if you looked at the time of possession in that game, Carolina was eating the clock up. I want to say it was like 36 to 24. You know what I mean, in time of possession, and that's a lot. So you can't really say that he had a bad game. He had 5 catches for 49 yards, I believe it was. And it is what it is. He still had a good game. He just they didn't have the ball enough to really show you anything.
Yeah, the thing with Tate is that he just doesn't get in the end zone too much, but when he does, his games are outstanding. Oh, yeah. And this is this week. I think he's going to have a great week. I think he's going to be somebody in daily fantasy that I think I'm going to be playing a lot this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Some sell highs real quick. Both of the Carolina guys, I don't really think we have to go in on those too much. Both of them had good games. Devin Funchess had 2 in a row. He had 7 for 70 and 2 touchdowns last week. This week, I think he was. I know he had a touchdown. What was his line?
Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up. It was ES. Well, go ahead. I'll find it, Kev.
Yeah, this week he actually had 7 for 53 and a touchdown.
There you go.
So he's putting up a lot of numbers right now, and he actually is a very, very attractive, a very attractive buy right now for some people who might be looking for wide receivers. I think that Devin Funchess is definitely a guy you can sell high on right now because he's performed well these last 2 weeks, and it's been very known that he's doing it because of the fact that Greg Olsen got hurt. Kelvin Benjamin, kind of the same thing. I can't stand Kelvin Benjamin. I don't think that he's the greatest football player in the world. So, if I could get rid of Benjamin, I will never draft Kelvin Benjamin personally.
Yeah.
But if he was on my team and I could get rid of him, and sell high on him at this point, I definitely would. And then another guy that me and Steve talked about beforehand was Will Fuller. Will Fuller seems like, Steve, why don't you say what you said to me earlier? You got a good breakdown on that.
Yeah, for me, Will Fuller, if he doesn't have those 2 touchdowns in both games, his numbers look pretty terrible. He was actually 4 for, I believe it was 36 yards the first game with 2 touchdowns. And then, actually, let me bring it up. I'll give you exact numbers so I'm not just going off the top of my head. But, he just doesn't look real good. He had 2 for 57 and 2 touchdowns in this game. You know what I mean? His scoring rate is basically it's basically like over 70%. You know what I mean? Like every time it's basically saying every time he catches the ball, he's scoring a touchdown. I mean, if you ask me, that's outrageous. That's just not going to continue. So, if you can sell high on him, I 100% would because the guy has 4 touchdowns in 2 games.
In 2 weeks.
And honestly hasn't had more than 60 yards in either game. So, sell.
Exactly. And this was one of those games, man. It just, there was so much garbage time. He wasn't doing anything until, he did get the touchdown early. Yeah. But like you said, if he's not scoring touchdowns, he's not really doing anything, and you can't really count on them touchdowns just continuing. There was so much garbage time for the Texans here. They were getting blown out. Deshaun Watson looks still like he has a little more growing to do.
Yeah.
Against good defenses like the Chiefs have. But, once the game got out of hand, he was just throwing the ball all over the place, and Fuller benefited on that long touchdown from that.
Yeah,
but Will Fuller is definitely somebody you could sell high on because he's had 2 good games right in a row, both on, both with 2 touchdowns, and I think people have taken notice, and he's probably a guy you can sell high on right now.
Yeah, definitely. And, if you can do that, I would. I'd jump all over that and do it. So any more wide receivers, Kev?
That was my last wide receiver.
All right, guys. So we're going to talk about some tight ends. Honestly, there's not too much going on in the tight end landscape for me. There's just 2 guys that I want to talk about. Actually, I'll just throw both of them out there, Kev, and then if you have anybody else.
That's cool.
The 2 guys that I really want to just talk about is David Njoku and Zach Miller. I just want to real quick go over the numbers so that you guys kind of understand how bad tight end has been this year.
Well, I can tell you right now, this week. Okay. I wasn't sure. Are you throwing out their numbers for this week?
I'm going to go through the top 15 tight ends and just tell everybody the numbers. So Zach Ertz is right now the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. He's got if you do decimal system scoring, which is point per yard. It's basically he's got 80.7 points. Then you got Travis Kelce with 77, Rob Gronkowski with 63.8, Jason Witten with 50. See, Jason Witten is number 4, and in his last 3 games, not 2, last 3 games, the guy had no. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. So in the last 3 games, is Arizona he had 1 for a 3, in the Rams he had 1 for 9, and then this week he had a semi blow up. He had 8 for 61. And he's the number 4 tight end. You know what I mean? And then you're talking Charles Clay, who's been very consistent, but now he's injured. He's out for at least, they're saying, 4 weeks. You have Cameron Brate, who didn't play week 1. He had his bye week, but, he went 2 for 24 in week 2, and then he's just been really, just...
Touchdown.
Yeah, it's just been touchdown. He's getting touchdowns. He's 3 for 33 in a touchdown, 4 for 80 in a touchdown, 5 for 68 in a touchdown. You got Delaney Walker at 7 with 51 points. Jesse James, who literally had 1 good game. The guy had week 1, 6 for 41 and 2 touchdowns. Then he's 6 for 20, 2 for 19, 3 for 40, 3 for 24. So, I'm not going to go. I'm just actually just going to stop.
Yeah, you can kind of see the direction that's going. And
yeah.
It's kind of like, it almost seems like you're just playing hit or miss with a lot of these tight ends nowadays.
Exactly.
It's just such, with Greg Olsen getting hurt, Tyler Eifert being hurt, who else is there out there? Jimmy Graham's been underperforming.
Yes.
This week Jimmy Graham seemed like he picked it up a little bit.
And Jimmy Graham is and even with those 2 bad games, Kev, with those 2 terrible games, and let me remind everybody what those 2 terrible games were: 3 for 8 yards and 1 for 1 yard. He's still tight end 10.
Yeah, that's the perfect example. Tight end's such a wasteland right now.
Yes.
It almost seems like Gronk is just so valuable at this point. If you play with it, like our league with me and Steve, we don't have to play tight ends, so tight ends are kind of devalued a little bit.
Yep.
But if you got a tight end, if you play a tight end in your league, Gronk almost is so valuable because he's clear by head and shoulders a bit better than almost every other tight end.
Yes.
He missed this week, but he'd be right up there with Ertz and Kelce if he played.
Yes, he would.
So it almost seems like making sure you get those guys just going forward in drafts. To me, it almost seems like making sure you get one of those prime guys is almost, it's almost essential. So that you're not hitting the scrap heap for guys because. Tight end is so bad that you don't know who to play. You're really not going to know how to play. So going forward, I think for me personally in drafts, it's something that I started exercising this year, and I kind of like my position in all my leagues at tight end because I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Other people seem like they got, other people are scrounging. I got one guy that's in one of my leagues who has Jesse James and O.J. Howard, and it's like, what do you do there? So. basically comes down to, these tight ends are it's such a wasteland.
Yeah, it's a
You're basically you're hitting or missing.
Exactly.
David Njoku has had a couple good games where he's put up a touchdown.
Yep.
But he's the same thing. I think his total was like 3 for 38 this week or something like that.
3 for
he just got the touchdown.
Yep. And that's what you're looking for at tight end. Honestly, you're looking for guys that are scoring touchdowns. So for me,
touchdowns. That's right. Cameron Brate's a perfect example of that. He's up at the top of the tight ends right now because he's scoring touchdowns.
Exactly. So I will hit on David Njoku. I like his matchups coming up for the next. I guess Again, he's got Houston this week, which is a tough matchup. But after that, he's got Tennessee. He's got a tough matchup against Minnesota, but he's got a bye week. Then he's got Detroit, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, the Chargers, Green Bay. The next 5 weeks after that, which I like all those matchups. I think Jacksonville can be had at the tight end position. So if you're needing a tight end, I recommend Njoku. And then Zach Miller is the other tight end I want to talk about. Zach Miller. With Trubisky being in, we said this last week, with Trubisky becoming the starting quarterback, he had 6 targets in this game. He caught 3 for 39 in the touchdown. So me and Kev have said this a bunch of times that when rookie, quarterbacks go in there, they start looking for their tight end. So as long as Zach Miller's healthy, he's somebody that, you can pick up and use while he's available.
100% agree, and the same holds true for Njoku. It seems like they're done with Kaiser. I don't know if he's planning on playing again. They took him out of the game and went to Kessler. That situation there is just pathetic. Yeah. If you're gonna give the guy to start, just leave him. He's a rookie. Yeah. You're killing his confidence by keep taking him out and putting him back in. Hugh Jackson to me is not a good coach either. And I don't know if that team just seems like they want to lose games, but it's the same thing with Njoku. He's got a young quarterback who might rely on him a little more, but Zach Miller definitely. Trubisky didn't look like he was that bad of a football player. He actually looked pretty good. He just don't have any weapons on the outside. So I agree. I think Zach Miller is probably a pretty good add with Trubisky being the quarterback because. Like I said, like I always say, rookie quarterbacks lean on them tight ends. Yeah,
it was actually Kevin Hogan. You said.
Kevin Hogan.
Yeah, Kevin Hogan. It was Kevin Hogan. Yeah. Like we said, the rookie tight ends lean on the tight ends, or quarterback lean on the tight ends. So guys that we like are basically those two. I don't know if you have any more, Kev, that you want to talk about.
I got two buy lows. Oh well, the first one will just be a buy. He's buy low, but Evan Ingram. He's 70% owned right now, so he's definitely not a waiver wire guy. But like we talked about with Sterling Shepard, they need playmakers now that Beckham and Marshall are both out for the season. Mm-hmm. Right now, Sterling Shepard is shaking up. If I could go trade for Evan Ingram, who didn't have any fantasy points this week, he had no catches. He got targeted 4 times, had no catches.
Yep.
If I could give up something very small and go get Evan Ingram, he's a guy that I think is going to wind up being a very solid option because, frankly, he's one of their only 2 playmakers left. Yes. So Evan Ingram's a guy I would definitely try to buy.
Yep.
And another buy low, Jordan Reed. He's healthy now. His coach literally Jay Gruden came on before this week. I saw a report that said he just needed this bye week to kind of get healthy. He was a little shaken up in those previous 2 games. The game against Oakland he didn't play, and then the game against Kansas City he was kind of only in there on 3rd downs and basically just a passing specialist. Jordan Reed is my favorite tight end. Gronk may be the best, but Jordan Reed is my favorite tight end player.
Yep.
And I think that you're going to see him turn it around completely coming off of the bye week. I think he's healthy now, and I think it's going to show. If you could go out and try to trade for Jordan Reed and buy low on him, now is the time to do it because I think that it's going to start doing nothing but going up for Jordan Reed.
I agree. I like that as a buy low guy. All right, guys, like we said, that was our last couple of guys we wanted to talk about. So we are finishing up today, and we will catch you guys on Thursday for our DFS lineups.
All right, take it easy, Fourth and Inch podcast listeners. Stevie P, great show.
Yeah, man. You too, Kev. All right, guys. Peace out.